Hello and welcome to the Corporate Escapists TV show. I'm your host, Christine Innes, and I'm so excited for you to be joining us today. I have the very beautiful and very energetic Bec joining me today. She is an absolute trailblazer, and I really can't wait for you to be able to feel her energy throughout this episode today. So thank you and welcome back to the show.
Hey everyone, how are you?
Oh, look, I'm so excited because from like our first conversation, like I got off the phone, I'm like going, oh my God, I just love your energy. You can like, when you talk to somebody, like you can really feel their energy and their vibe and all of that sort of stuff. And yeah, I was sort of like, oh, I'm on like a bit of a high after talking to you. I absolutely loved it. I'm so excited because what I really love about you is that, one of the things that I took away from our short conversation that we had the first time is that you're a doer and you're an action taker. And that's something that I absolutely love. And I think there's two different types of people. There's action takers and doers. All these are gunner people. It's like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but they never actually do anything. But you are an action taker and a doer, and I absolutely love it because we are so similar and aligned in that aspect as well. So I can't wait to sort of, as we start talking and, sharing a little bit about your story with people. But do you want to give people just a little bit of a background of sort of like how you got to where you are like today? Because I know that you had like some really, profound moments that's happened that got to you where you are today and sort of, living your life like to the absolute fullest.
Okay, you'll need to keep me on track because I do tend to ramble, and that's just part of who I am. But so my story started, I'm Scottish, but I'm currently living in New Zealand. So I emigrated out here 18 years ago. I am from Scotland, where I'd followed a pretty regular path, gone to school, done the full, got to my 6th year at school, didn't know what I was going to do, but had been told you go on to university. So I left, I went on, did teacher training, got through that, and then thought, you know what? I hated school. What on earth makes me think that being a teacher and being stuck inside of that environment again is going to be any better? So I, at the age of 18, put on my traveling shoes and traveled the world. I did it on my own, again, just because I'm an action taker, and all my friends all around were like, yeah, we'll do our OEs, but not quite yet. And it was like, well, sorry, but I'm ready, backpacks on, and I'm off. And I traveled, and I did a lot of traveling. I did New Zealand, Australia, and then all the way up through Asia. Got back to the UK and went, oh, what am I going to do now? So I actually fell back into that whole paradigm that we do. And I went back to university, and I got a business degree because I thought that would maybe give me a new direction. And I did that, and then I got involved in corporate, and I was climbing my way up, and I had an attachment to an architect's firm, but I was built them a design company. And then I found out I was pregnant, and all of everything that I've been doing suddenly went into slow motion, and I suddenly realized that my life was going in a very different direction to the one that I had set out on. And it really, it took the wind out of my sails a little bit, and I found myself stuck at home with a baby in city centre, which was great when you were following the corporate path, but with young kids, not so much. And in a moment of madness, I decided I was going to take my husband and my child, and we were going to emigrate out to New Zealand. And we were out here within 6 months of me having made that decision. So again, action taking. We didn't know where we were coming to. We hadn't transferred any money, didn't have a job, had all the points that I needed for a residency, but I needed 3 extra points, and I could only get them if I got employment. And I know that if I'm there, I can get employment because people love that energy. If you're doing emails, you can't really express that energy through an email or anything. Back then, gosh, 17 years ago, when email and internet were only just coming into being. And we came out here, and I had a job within 24 hours. That is a fabulous story. But I ended up working for a corporate again, got back into the groove, living out here, the sun was shining, got pregnant again. And this derailed me completely. So I took a step back and was like, okay, we need to actually redefine what this looks like, because for me, working in corporate and having children, they just didn't mix. Okay, so I decided that I would become self-employed, and therefore I would build a business. I'd have more time freedom, I'd have more money. That was the way to go. No, it became harder. I spent less time with my kids. I worked longer hours than I did when I was in corporate. There was so much more stress and worry because somebody was taking care of all of that for you when you're caught in that corporate environment. Mm-hmm. So you're suddenly working for yourself. Now you've got to be the accountant, you've got to be your marketer, you've got to be everything. And it just ended up completely and utterly absorbing me, to the point when I neglected the other things in my life, which were my husband, which were myself, which were, not that I neglected my children, but carers had more time with my kids than I did. And I ran myself completely empty. And it was one of those moments that I hear so often, which was, it was a defining moment, those bathroom floor when you're lying there just overwhelmed, emotionally overwhelmed, physically overwhelmed, exhausted, going, right, okay, it needs to stop. The world needs to stop and I need to get off because I can't do this anymore. And I guess they're kind of when we put out this huge signal to the universe, and it's usually, I found, and again, in coaching with other women, it's in those moments when there's a death of a paradigm. It's like you've hit rock bottom and you have to, out of the chaos, come up with a new way of doing things. And I was lucky enough in that moment to settle into my intuition, and I reached out to a coach, a business coach at the time, to go, okay, so I need some help here. I can't do it all myself. I tried that, and I brought this coach in, and it was very interesting because we started working not on my business, but on me. And we started working on my limiting beliefs and my conditioned behavior patterns that had got me into this nightmare position. And what I suddenly started to understand, now I'd done a lot of personal development, I've done a lot of things in my life because I'm a doer like you. So I'm there. I don't need to know what it is that we're doing. So I'd gone to courses and I read books and I'd done a huge amount. But what I had never been taught was how to break or interrupt those patterns. And what I discovered was that they were held in place by feelings or emotions. Okay, so that fear and that pain have a feeling essence to them. We can understand them. We intellectually know when they were laid down. Sometimes we don't because we've blocked that off, but we'll know when that was put in place. But it was put in place on a feeling level. So we can't change it using our intellect. We actually need to go in and deal with it on a feeling level. And once I started to do that and started to, in my taking action, come up against things that either had me scared or fearful, rather than going into this emotional overwhelm that had me constantly fighting fires, if I just allowed and held myself in that emotional frequency and allowed the energy to be felt out of it, I found that these behavior patterns actually started to disintegrate and fall away. And what ended up happening was that ability to take action and step up started to become more in flow, because I was no longer coming across these internal conflicts between my underlying strengths of being energetic and being playful and being able to take action, which in an environment aren't necessarily what the corporate were looking for. So, or my parents or schools, so it gets kind of crushed out of you. Once you start to remove them, you now get to step into your full being and turn up fully self-expressed. So what ended up happening for me was, in this business that was falling to pieces, I was on the verge of bankruptcy. My staff were all over the place. I started to change internally how I was turning up, and my external world started to change really rapidly. And from there, I managed to turn that business around, and within 2 months had sold it for a profit, paid off all of the debt that I'd accrued, managed to find new positions for all of the staff members, and walked away with a little bit of money and a whole heap of respect for myself, because I didn't allow that defining moment to define me. I picked myself up off the floor and I found a way through it. And in the tools that I learn, I now hold that torch for other women that find themselves on bathroom floors going, you know what, this is in direct conflict with who I am and what it is that I am meant to be doing.
Yeah. I love like everything that you say, like I can resonate so much because it's, you know, very similar to, you know, my story. But some of the key things, and, you know, what this is one of the things that I love talking about, is the fact is that by having a business, you really need to know who you are. And when you go into business, there's going to be so much that comes up. And it is not a lot of the time the business aspect, it is the personal stuff that we haven't dealt with before, or it's going to trigger something that we need to then start dealing with. And I think that's such an important thing that, you know, people don't fully understand. And especially when we're talking from going from corporate into your own business, because you have your corporate identity, you have this sort of persona of how you show up. But then when you go into having a business for yourself, you are the brand. You can't hide behind some corporate logo. You can't hide behind, you know, a whole nother team. It is you. And if you don't fully know who you are, if you haven't stripped back those layers, it can actually trigger so much. So I think it's such a powerful thing what you've said, that, you know, it doesn't automatically happen. There is sometimes going to be something that will trigger us, that will make us sort of, you know, need to do that self-reflection, to do the inner work before we can fully show up. And the other part that you said is that you need to allow to embrace the feelings. And that's probably something else that I really want to touch on. I think this will probably be a different episode that we can go into, because one of the things that I found working in corporate is that I had to suppress sort of my feminine sort of behaviors and, you know, energy, and not be so emotional. And that then sort of turned me into somebody who didn't even know how to feel sometimes. And it's, if we don't know how to feel those emotions and we can't fully express ourselves, then that can actually manifest and sort of, you know, internalize so much into other different things. And we need to learn how to feel, adjust, and sort of project, you know, those different types of, you know, emotions in our life, and really get back to, like you said, the root cause. What is actually the reason behind it? And that is when you start to heal. That is when you start to fully be able to express who you are. So I think that they're just two really key things for people to really, you know, take some time to really appreciate, and to really start, you know, investigating and looking into how that they can actually deal with that, is your identity, but also, you know, looking at the emotions and how we deal with everything.
Yeah, I think you're right. And also, because of the way the corporate environment has been structured, it has tended to be quite male orientated. And it is a gross generalization, but men do tend to see women as being terribly emotional and emotive, and that be a negative thing. So we do, while we're in corporate, I found myself having to temper who I was. So not be as excited and energetic, because that made the men feel uncomfortable, and because you were being a bit chatty. But what ended up happening is you come over as being, well, I certainly felt I wasn't being authentic, because I wasn't being truly who I was. Now, again, when you work for yourself, you're able to be a little bit more authentic because you have to turn up as who you are. And when you're able to turn up as who you are, people see that light and are drawn to that. So it's a very brave woman who can stand in her power and be authentic inside a corporate environment, and as well when you're in business for yourself, knowing yourself, but also if you know yourself within a corporate environment, I think you can also have a very powerful positive impact on that environment too.
Yeah, I really love that, like just stand in your power, because, you know, I would, you know, show up as, you know, somebody who I thought that I needed to be, like obviously in corporate. And then I would go home and I'd be so tired. And I made the connection that because I was not showing up as my true authentic self, I was, you know, putting on all these masks and labels that I needed to then sort of get back. And it wasn't just the corporate life. I had a lot that I needed to deal with, you know, being in a toxic marriage and a few other different things, and, you know, healing all of those, you know, different emotions and, you know, stuff that we go through in life. But a lot of the time, as what I found is that, you know, when you are being authentic, is that I will meet people, you know, outside, and they're going, oh my God, you're exactly the same way. Like you know, I talk, I act, you know, like the same thing. Like it's not me being anything different. So I think that you sort of know that you are being authentic if somebody can actually say that you act the same in all different types of environments. So I think it's actually really powerful for people, you know, to know that it's okay for us to be vulnerable. It's okay for us to be different. It's okay for us to, you know, be expressive. It's okay for us to, you know, be chatty, like all and vibrant. Like don't let anybody take that away from you, and try and sort of dull, you have to excuse my voice, dull your sparkle, you know, during those really key moments in life. I think it's really important to do that. One of the things that we talked about last time was, you know, coming obviously now into being, you know, this sort of action taker. You've also got a book as well. And do you find that there's one question that keeps coming up all the time with all of your clients?
The first thing that comes to mind when you ask me that is the one thing that clients come in believing is that there's something broken. There's something wrong with me. There's got to be something wrong with me, because if there's not, then yeah, there's nothing wrong with any of us. It's our behaviors that are dysfunctional, or our reactive energy to certain situations that's the dysfunctional bit. So a lot of my clients will come and go, okay, so what's wrong with me? Nothing's wrong, but the way you process emotional energy can be done differently. And once that's done differently, then we get to turn up differently.
Yeah, I love that, because a lot of the times, like, I mean, I always say, you know, I was a bit broken and a bit, you know, and that, but the fact is that we need to look at that word probably a little bit different. And it's just to say that we all can be a little bit, you know, fractured and all of that sort of stuff. But it is also looking about the behaviors. It's about looking about our old stories. It's looking at, you know, things that no longer serve us a purpose, and that how we can change. And I think mindset and, you know, those beliefs and behaviors, they're so critical that if we change that, how much it can influence our own lives, but it has this beautiful ripple effect, you know, within our family and our friends and community as well, that we don't realize the immense power that we can project onto other people as well.
Oh, well, there's that beautiful saying, you know, that a smile will ripple out, you know, and that's one of the things that I've got this sparkly little behavior, this sparkly personality. And if I can just smile, you don't know how that can impact hugely somebody's life, and therefore how they turn up. Just like a crossword or an angry word or an angry gesture can have that negative impact. So if we can go out and just be a little bit more sparkly, a little bit more energetic, a little bit more enthusiastic, just a smile on our face, it actually has this hugely rewarding experience, because you smile, someone smiles back, and the ripple effect, like you say, can go out to our family, our community, all those that we come into contact with.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, because I think, a lot of people don't realize the power of our own energy. And during like the journey that I've gone through over the last, sort of 4 years, and just really noticing that, I hold the power and that I have the ability to allow what I want in my life and, what I don't want. And that also comes to energy. And the more energetic that I am, the more, the positiveness that you sort of want to project. If you allow that to then shine out, you're going to attract so much more of that into your life as well. Like attracts like. So if you're going to walk around, feeling a little bit down, you might attract some down people. But if you're going to go out there,
misery loves company.
It does. It does. And I think it's such a key thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Because what we focus on, we draw into our experience. And that's what I noticed with that last business that I had. So you go in, and I'm a big picture, so you go in, you're all enthusiastic, and then things start to happen and you start reacting emotionally to them. And then you're constantly, or I found myself always focused on the problems, always focused on what was going wrong, which just meant that more things started to go wrong and my focus started to become pulled down. But by changing those reactive behavior patterns, what I found was that once I released myself from that energy, now I was able to focus on the more positive. The more positive energy you focus on, the more you draw to you. The more positive you are, the more you draw to. So by very simply changing what it is that you're focusing on, if you're feeling down, focusing on something that you're grateful for, it changes the mood and it changes what you're attracting. And you have choice in every moment.
I mean, that's so powerful. I mean, the biggest thing that I learned was obviously practicing gratitude. And I am, I didn't realize the power of gratitude. And, just by focusing on things that you are grateful for and focusing on those positive things, it literally changes you. I mean, you could be sitting at a set of lights and be going, oh my God, I'm going to be late, I'm going to be do that. But, I simply change it and just go, you know what, I get an extra couple of minutes to listen to my favorite song or, podcast or, all that sort of thing, because you can focus on the negative, but if you focus more on the positive, it literally can, you can feel your energy, your whole, I'm a big
Changes
believer
your vibration.
It does. I was just about to say vibration, like it changes everything in there, and 4 years ago, I never would have thought that I would be talking about gratitude, vibration, like energy, any of those sorts of things. But it is a game changer. And I really just love this conversation, because I think that everybody needs to know that energy is so important, but also to understanding your behaviors, understanding how you react, but also understanding how you are showing up authentically, and how that can have such a major change in your life and literally transform you.
Well, and that's when, for me, when I stepped into my truth, stepped into my authenticity, I then started to attract and create the lifestyle and the business that I always had dreamt of. Back then when I started my little business, caught in my conditioning and what I call my human control codes, or my dynamics, was I was just attracting to my conditioning. So my conditioning around money, my conditioning around working, my conditioning around, so they were all the behaviors. Now, emotion is energy in motion. Once I started to take care of the emotion and transform that and release that, now I'm able to start creating from a space of abundance, from a space of flow, from that authentic truth space. And the business that I have now created for myself is night and day to the one that I had created 10 years ago. And that was simply by removing the barriers inside of me that were preventing me from being and living into my limitless true potential.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And we all have that.
Yeah, I get goosebumps when you talk about that, because it is so true. I mean, here I was working, 80 to 100-hour weeks. I was in corporate, I had a side business and all that. And now I literally, like I did a video this morning just saying, I literally get up and wake up because I'm excited to start the day. And I could not have said that so many years ago. And it wasn't just work, it was also my personal life that had, a major impact in it. But when you can step into your power, when you can, do the inner work, do all of the stuff that you need to do and really start to shine, like the opportunities are endless. And, the only limitation is the lack of imagination that you have. So
that's it, because we're creators. So as we're on this leading edge of creative energy. And as we're on that leading edge moving forward, it is us that creates what comes next. And when we truly understand that and step into that, we can create whatever it is that we want.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. It's so powerful.
That is just so exciting.
I know.
Powerful, isn't it?
I love it. I love it. I sit there and, like I do my vision boards and all that sort of stuff. And, people look at me going, oh my God, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, like, honestly, like, I have this great big grand vision for myself and for my life and all that sort of stuff. And, we need to get back to that sort of childlike behavior, because when we're kids, like, parents encourage us to, get out the crayons and, like, to draw and be imaginative,
create
and all of that.
And play.
Yes, and we need to do that, in life. And it is also about, you said, like, the energy in motion, and we are not meant to stand still. We need to get up, we need to move, we need to have fun, get up and dance, and do all that sort of stuff, and really just start enjoying and embracing life. So that's what I mean. I just love being able to talk to you, because, we very similar aligned, but also too, I think the energy, is quite infectious, and, I feel like more energized. I feel like I've had like a couple of coffees, so which is great. So, as we wrap up today, what would you say would be one piece of advice that you would give somebody who is either sitting in the corporate world right now and going, I don't feel like I'm myself, and either they want to stay where they are, but they want to get more in tune with themselves, or they're thinking, you know what, there's a different passion, or there's a different life for me. What would be one thing that they need to do to be able to really get back in touch with themselves?
One thing that I would say is feelings drive behaviors. Okay, so if there's a behavior pattern that you're aware of, become really present with the sensation or the feeling that happens, because you will feel it. So it's a case of being able to observe the feeling inside of your body prior to a behavior. Because when you can become present with that feeling, what happens is that behavior is the result of that feeling. So if you feel fearful, you're going to withdraw, okay? So if you can be aware of that, and just be aware that it is just a feeling that's stopping you. It's called the terror barrier, okay? Now, if you can just stay present with the sensation, knowing it is just an energy, you'll find that that energy actually starts to dissipate. And you can step a little bit further forward. And again, if the energy rises up inside of you, just remembering it's just an energy. And if you sit with it, it will start to dissipate. And the more you allow yourself to be okay with these energies rather than recoil and resist them, you'll find that you have the capacity to stay present, that you don't have to run away, that you don't have to go into the flight, fight, or freeze mode, which is the instinctual side of ourselves, because we're just reacting to an energy that was actually put in place when we were kids.
Yeah.
And we've been practicing it and practicing it and practicing it. And now as an adult, when you come up against it, just be present with it. And that can change so much, because it changes us inside.
Yeah. Because I think that being present is such a key thing. And I think that's actually, I'll have to get you back, because I think we really could have like a whole conversation on just how to be present in the moment and to be able to feel and to, you know, really, sometimes we just forget how to enjoy the moment too. You know, we're so busy of forward thinking and not
Feeling, and that's the other one that I would always suggest as well, that word busy. Coming back to the present moment, because when you're in the present moment, what you do find is that you'll heal that inner voice. You will actually learn to trust your intuition, because you're not in the reactive emotional energy that tends to have us off following the unconscious stuff. When we start being present, conscious, and making the unconscious, sorry,
You're right, love.
making the unconscious conscious, is because I want to talk with my hands.
So do I.
Making the unconscious conscious, then when we're present with it, we'll find our way through it.
Yeah. I must have been Italian, I reckon, in my past life, because I'm always doing like with my hands. So, you know,
like, I hold on to my hands like this to stop them when I've got headphones in.
It's so good. Thank you so much for your time today. Like, I just love our conversations, and I'm definitely going to have you back so we can talk about so much more, especially being present in the moment, but also I think about getting people to really connect, I guess, with those sort of emotions and how to sort of process that. I think they're two really key topics that people need to learn as well. So thank you so much, lovely, for joining me today.
Thank you. My God. It's such a fun morning. I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining in for this episode of the Corporate Escapists TV show. I put all the details of how you can reach out to Bec below. So make sure you follow her on all her social pages, and you can check out her on her website. You can follow me and also follow more about the show of the Corporate Escapists TV show on our Facebook page. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and make sure you live life to the fullest.